The letter arrived on my 16th birthday, right after my parents announced they were converting my bedroom into a nursery for my sister's baby. Perfect timing, really. Nothing says happy birthday quite like finding out you're being erased from your childhood home. My name is Lila, and until that morning, I thought I was just the forgotten second daughter of the perfect Monroe family. You know the type: successful parents, beautiful older sister, and the awkward teenager who doesn't quite fit the family portrait. I was sitting on my bed, well, soon to be former bed, when Mom breezed in with her signature "I've made an executive decision" smile. Sweetie, since you'll be heading to boarding school next semester, we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to help Valerie prepare for the baby. You mean you've already decided? I clutched the mysterious envelope from Grandfather Harrison tighter, his elegant handwriting burning into my palm. Don't be difficult, Lila. Your sister needs this space more than you do right now. Besides, you'll love the dorm rooms at Wellington Prep. Mom started measuring the walls, completely missing how my hands were shaking. Did you even remember it's my birthday? She paused, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Of course I did. We'll celebrate this weekend, after your father returns from his business trip. Like last year? And the year before that? I stood up, finally finding my voice. When was the last time we actually celebrated my birthday on my birthday? Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracked for just a second. That's not fair. We've always given you everything you needed. Except you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Something flashed in her eyes, guilt, maybe? Or anger. But before she could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Marisol. Read the letter alone, sweetheart. Some truths need space to breathe. I glanced at the envelope again, noting the weight of whatever secrets it held. Mom followed my gaze, her expression shifting from annoyance to something closer to fear when she recognized Grandfather's handwriting. What's that? Nothing, I said, echoing years of her dismissive responses to my questions. Just some birthday wishes. She lingered for a moment longer, clearly wanting to press further, but her phone chimed with what was undoubtedly a more important matter. We'll discuss the room situation later, she said, already typing as she walked away. I waited until her footsteps faded before breaking the seal on the envelope. The first line made my heart stop. My dearest Lila, there's something you need to know about the day you were born. I spent that night at Aunt Marisol's house, my grandfather's letter burning a hole in my backpack. The contents kept replaying in my mind: adoption papers, medical records, and a story that made my whole life feel like a carefully constructed lie. Aunt Marisol's cottage always felt more like home than our cold mansion ever did. She was brewing tea in the kitchen when I finally found the courage to talk about it. Did you know? I asked, spreading the documents across her worn kitchen table. About my real mother? She set 2 steaming mugs down and studied my face. I wondered when Harrison would tell you. Your mother, Celeste, she made us all promise to keep it quiet. Of course she did. I wrapped my hands around the mug, letting the warmth ground me. Why does everything have to be about maintaining her perfect image? It's more complicated than that, sweetheart. Marisol pulled out an old photo album I'd never seen before. Your mother wasn't always the person you know now. Before she married your father. The doorbell interrupted her, and through the window, I caught sight of Mom's Mercedes in the driveway. Marisol's expression hardened, a look I'd never seen on her usually gentle face. Stay here, she said, heading for the door. I crept closer to listen, keeping out of sight. Where is she? Mom's voice was sharp, controlled. This has gone far enough, Marisol. Has it? Or are you just worried about what else she might discover? Don't you dare make this about. About what, Celeste? About how you've spent 16 years pretending everything's perfect. About how you pushed away everyone who tried to tell you the truth. There was a long pause, then Mom's voice came again, quieter this time. I did what I had to do to protect this family. No, Marisol replied, you did what you had to do to protect yourself. There's a difference. I heard Mom's heels on the porch steps, retreating. Tell Lila. Tell her I'll explain everything. But not yet. There are things she's not ready to know. She's stronger than you think, Marisol called after her. She always has been. When Marisol returned to the kitchen, she found me clutching a photo that had fallen from the album. It showed a younger version of my mother, actually smiling, genuinely happy, standing next to a woman who looked remarkably like me. "That's Elena," Marisol said softly. "Your biological mother. She was Celeste's best friend before." "Before what?" Marisol took a deep breath. "Before your father had to choose between them." The implications of those words hit me like a physical blow. Suddenly, my mother's coldness, my father's constant absence, and the family's obsession with appearances all started making a terrible kind of sense. Grandfather Harrison's study felt like stepping into another century, all leather and mahogany and secrets. He was waiting for me there, looking older than I remembered, with a stack of yellowed letters spread across his desk. "I see you've met Elena," he said, nodding at the photograph I was still carrying. "Your mother's going to be furious with me for opening this door." "Why did you?" I settled into the leather chair across from him, noting how his hands trembled slightly as he reached for one of the letters. "Because I'm tired of watching history repeat itself." He slid the letter toward me. "Your father wasn't always the absent man, you know. Once, he was caught between two extraordinary women, your mother and Elena. The choice he made, well, it destroyed more than just a friendship." The letter was from Elena to my father, dated just months before my birth. As I read, my throat tightened. "She was pregnant when she died. With you." Harrison's voice cracked. "Your mother couldn't have children. When Elena died in that car accident, Celeste convinced Grant that raising you as their own was the only way to keep the scandal quiet. To protect everyone's reputation." A sharp laugh from the doorway made us both jump. Valerie stood there, her perfect makeup not quite hiding her anger. "Oh, so the little princess finally knows she's not really one of us? Thank God." Valerie, Harrison warned, but she was already advancing into the room. "Do you know how exhausting it's been, watching Mom and Dad twist themselves into knots trying to protect you?" She grabbed the letter from my hands. "Elena was nothing but a homewrecker who tried to steal Dad from Mom. The only reason they took you in was because your mother blackmailed Elena's family," Harrison cut in, his voice steel. "She threatened to expose Elena's pregnancy to the press unless they agreed to let her and Grant adopt the baby after Elena's death." Valerie's face went white. "That's not. Mom would never." "Ask her about the accident report," Harrison said quietly. "Ask her why she was the last person to see Elena alive that night." The implications hit me like a physical blow. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that your mother's perfect image has been built on carefully buried secrets. And now that you know the truth, she'll do anything to maintain control of the narrative." He pulled out one final document, a police report I recognized from the papers in my grandfather's letter. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I stared at the report, my hands shaking. The official cause of Elena's death was listed as a tragic accident, a car running off the road on a rainy night. But someone had circled a detail in red ink, traces of brake fluid on the ground where Elena's car had been parked earlier that evening. "Sometimes," Harrison said softly, "the most dangerous people are the ones who believe they're protecting their family." I found Mom in her home office that evening, surrounded by the carefully curated photos of our perfect family life. The police report felt heavy in my pocket as I watched her typing away at her computer, probably planning another charity gala or corporate event. "Did you love her?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. "What?" "Elena. Before you decided she had to disappear." The mask slipped for just a fraction of a second before she turned to face me, her society smile firmly in place. "I see Harrison's been sharing his conspiracy theories again. I have the police report." I pulled it out, watching her face carefully. "And the maintenance records from Dad's garage. You knew about cars. You helped Dad restore that old Mustang. You would have known exactly how to make it look like an accident." She stood up slowly, smoothing her silk blouse. "You sound just like her, you know. Elena always had a flair for dramatic accusations." "Is that why you did it?" "Because she threatened to tell everyone about the baby, about me. You have no idea what she was going to destroy." Mom's voice cracked slightly. "Everything I'd built, everything I'd sacrificed. You mean everything you stole? I stepped closer, feeling strangely calm. From her. From me. I protected you. She slammed her hand on the desk, making the family photos rattle. Do you think Elena could have given you the life you have? The opportunities? She was nothing but a small-town girl with big dreams and no sense of loyalty. Like being loyal to your best friend when she fell in love with your husband? The slap caught me off guard, but not as much as the tears in Mom's eyes. Your father made his choice. He chose me. Elena. She just couldn't accept that. No, I said quietly, touching my stinging cheek. He chose her. That's why you had to get rid of her. Mom sank back into her chair, suddenly looking older than I'd ever seen her. You don't understand what it's like to love someone so much that losing them would destroy everything you are. Actually, I pulled out my phone, showing her the recording app's blinking red light. I think I'm starting to understand exactly what that kind of love can make people do. Her eyes widened as she realized what I'd done. Lila, wait. The police might be interested in reopening Elena's case, I said, backing toward the door. Especially with a confession. You wouldn't dare. I'm your mother. No, I cut her off. You're the woman who killed my mother. And now everyone's going to know exactly who you really are. The recording felt like a loaded gun in my phone as I sat in Aunt Marisol's kitchen, watching her face change while she listened to Mom's confession. When it finished, she didn't speak for a long moment. You can't turn this into the police, she finally said. What? But she admitted. Your father's fingerprints are all over this too. Marisol's hands trembled as she poured more tea. The brake fluid, the garage records, he had to have known. The realization hit me like ice water. They both killed her. The night Elena died, your father called me. Marisol pulled out an old flip phone from a kitchen drawer. I kept it all these years, with his voicemail still saved. Listen. Dad's voice, younger and panicked, filled the kitchen. Mari, something's wrong. Celeste found out about the papers, Elena's custody agreement. She's gone after her. I can't stop what's happening. Please, just keep the truth safe for Lila. Someday she'll need to know. My stomach lurched. He tried to warn her? Too late. Marisol's eyes were wet. By the time I reached Elena's apartment, the police were already there. Your father signed off on ruling it an accident to protect Celeste, to protect you. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the window, I saw Dad standing on the porch, looking more haunted than I'd ever seen him. I got your text, he said when we opened the door. About the recording. Did Mom send you to stop me? He shook his head. Celeste doesn't know I'm here. But there's something you need to see before you decide what to do with that confession. He handed me a worn envelope. Inside was a letter in unfamiliar handwriting, dated the day Elena died. My dearest Lila, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. Your father wants to raise you himself, but Celeste will never allow it. She's already threatened to destroy everything if we try to keep you. Maybe she's right. Maybe a clean break is better than a lifetime of fighting. I'm leaving tonight, taking you somewhere she can't reach us. I pray we make it. All my love. Elena. She was running away with me, I whispered. And Celeste stopped her. Dad's voice cracked. I thought if I protected your mother, kept the family together, it would somehow make up for failing Elena. For failing you. I looked at the letter, then at my phone with its damning recording. The truth could destroy them both. My parents, my family, everything I'd ever known. What am I supposed to do with all this? I asked, but I wasn't sure who I was really asking anymore. Valerie's wedding reception was in full swing when I slipped the USB drive containing Mom's confession into the DJ's playlist. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. In 20 minutes, everyone would know the truth about the perfect Monroe family. I watched Mom working the room, laughing with the society photographers, while Dad stood by the bar, already on his third scotch. The perfect power couple, built on a foundation of murder and lies. You're really going to do this? Valerie appeared beside me, her wedding dress rustling. Destroy our family on my wedding day? They destroyed Elena's family 16 years ago. Seems fitting. She grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. You think you're the only one who suffered? Mom's confession will ruin Dad too. Is that what Elena would have wanted? The question hit harder than I expected. Before I could respond, Grandfather Harrison's voice cut through the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have wasn't part of the plan. He wasn't supposed to be here. Many of you know the tragic story of Elena Roberts, he continued, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. What you don't know is my role in her death. Mom's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. I was the one who pushed Celeste to marry Grant, despite knowing he loved Elena. I orchestrated their engagement, used my influence to pressure Elena's family. All to secure the merger between our companies. Harrison's eyes found mine. The night Elena died, she came to me first, begging for help to escape with her baby. I turned her away. The USB drive felt like it was burning in my pocket as Harrison continued. I chose money and power over love and truth. And that choice set in motion events that destroyed not one life, but many. Dad moved toward Mom, who was swaying slightly, her perfect mask cracking. Valerie's grip on my arm loosened. "Lila," Harrison said, "whatever you're planning to do tonight, remember, revenge doesn't just hurt your target. It ripples outward, drowning everyone in its path." The DJ announced the first dance. As the music started, I watched Mom and Dad exchange a look of pure terror, wondering if their confession was about to play. Valerie's new husband waited on the dance floor, oblivious to the drama unfolding around him. I had the power to destroy them all, to get justice for Elena, to make them feel as lost and betrayed as I did. But as I reached for the USB drive, another thought hit me. Was I any better than them if I chose revenge over mercy? The music played on, and I had 30 seconds to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. I found Mom alone in the bridal suite, staring at her reflection as the wedding reception continued below. The USB drive felt heavy in my hand as I closed the door behind me. "You knew I was coming," I said. She nodded, not turning around. Harrison's speech wasn't subtle, though I suppose subtlety doesn't matter anymore, does it? "I have your confession, and Dad's voicemail, and the maintenance records. Then why haven't you played it yet?" She finally faced me, her perfect makeup streaked with tears. "What are you waiting for?" The question hung between us like a loaded gun. Outside, the music swelled as Valerie and her husband shared their first dance. "Tell me one thing," I said. "Did you love her? Before everything?" Mom's hands trembled as she reached for an old photo in her clutch, one I'd never seen before. 3 young people laughing at a beach, Mom, Dad, and Elena. She was my best friend. Mom's voice cracked. "We shared everything. Until we shared your father, and then I couldn't share anymore. I couldn't lose. So you made sure you won." "I thought I did." She looked at me, really looked at me, for what felt like the first time. "But I've been losing you every day since. Just like I lost her." I pulled out the USB drive, holding it between us. "I could destroy everything right now." "Yes." She stepped closer. "You could make me pay for what I did. Make us all pay. Or what? Or you could be better than me." She took my free hand, pressing something into it, a key. Elena's apartment. I kept it all these years. Everything she owned, everything she wrote, everything she wanted you to have, it's all still there. Including her last letter to you. My throat tightened. "There's more? A whole life waiting for you to discover it. But if you choose revenge tonight, that door closes forever. The police will seize everything as evidence." She squeezed my hand. "You have every right to destroy me, Lila. But don't destroy your chance to know her in the process." The USB drive suddenly felt impossibly heavy. Below, the wedding guests were laughing, dancing, celebrating new beginnings while we stood surrounded by the weight of endings. "What would Elena do?" I whispered, more to myself than Mom. "She would choose love," Mom said softly. "Every time. That's why she was better than me. That's why you're better than me." I looked at the key in my palm, then at the USB drive in my other hand. In that moment, I realized I wasn't choosing between justice and mercy. I was choosing who I wanted to become. Elena's apartment was frozen in time, 16 years of dust covering everything like a delicate shroud. I stood in the doorway, Mom behind me, both of us afraid to disturb the silence. I couldn't bring myself to change anything, she said quietly. The space was small but filled with life, half-finished paintings, dog-eared books, Polaroids tacked to walls. Elena's world, preserved like a museum to what could have been. On the coffee table, a leather journal sat waiting, a letter tucked into its pages. "I'll wait outside," Mom said, but I caught her arm. "Stay." We sat together on the faded couch as I opened the journal. Elena's handwriting flowed across the pages, telling stories of her friendship with Mom, her love for Dad, her dreams for me. The final entry was dated the night she died. "My dearest Lila, by now you know the truth about your family, both the beautiful and the ugly parts. Don't let the darkness of how things ended overshadow the light of how they began. Your mother was once my best friend, my sister in all but blood. Your father was the great love of my life. And you, my precious girl, were born from that love. Whatever happened after you read this, I hope you chose love over vengeance. Some secrets destroy us not in their keeping, but in their revealing. Live the life I couldn't give you. Love deeply, forgive carefully, and remember that you carry both my heart and my hope for a better tomorrow. All my love. Elena." I looked at Mom, really looked at her, and saw what Elena must have seen all those years ago, not just the perfectly maintained facade, but the scared girl beneath it who lost her best friend and gained a daughter in one tragic night. "I can't forgive you yet," I said, "but I don't want to destroy you either." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "I don't deserve your mercy. It's not for you." I touched the journal. It's for her. And for me. We spent the next few hours going through Elena's things, her art, her letters, her dreams. With each discovery, I felt closer to both my mothers, the one who gave me life and the one who gave me a future, however imperfect. As the sun set, casting long shadows across Elena's apartment, I found one last surprise, a small box containing 2 identical lockets. Inside each was the same photo, Mom and Elena as teenagers, arms around each other, laughing at some forgotten joke. I handed one to Mom and kept the other, a reminder that love and hate, forgiveness and justice, aren't opposites, they're different paths to the same truth. Sometimes the greatest revenge is choosing to break the cycle of pain, even when you have every right to keep it spinning.